Good morning, and thank you for joining us on this Monday's episode of the Round Table. We have our guest today. Good morning, Rashad.
It's 3:00 here.
Okay, so it's 3:00, which basically means you're not gonna let me do my show my way, right? No? Yes? Can you hear me from Africa? Okay, so we are live on Facebook. Please support the show. You can't hear me? This is going to be an interesting show. So I'm going to ask you to hold 1 second, okay, Rashad? Let me introduce our guest. Let me get the show going, and then we'll get to you in Ghana, okay? I think there's a delay. So I'm going to do me the way I do me. So we have special guests. This is Monday's episode, and our guests have taken their time, their energy.
No problem. Take your time.
Come together with you. It's going to be fun. I can tell you that right now. We're going to have us a good show today. So please support the show. Please support our guests. Go ahead and share the show. So I'm Sharifa Hardy. I'm your host. I want to introduce you to today's guest. Our first guest is Isabel Hunt. Isabel is a sociologist, speaker, and a transformation coach. Good morning, Isabel. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing really, really well.
Thank you for joining us. Our next guest, Marlana White, joined us last week, and we learned so much from Marlana. We learned that we have some of the same views. We learned about her perspective. And because she had such a wonderful time, she came back to help you with more information. She's a fifth-generation healer and intuit, and she helps people to recognize their power and helps others to wake up. Good morning, Marlana. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Our next guest, Michael O'Brien. Michael, we definitely want to hear from him. He's in New Jersey, a little way outside of New York, ground zero. Everything's happening in that area. Michael is a motivational speaker. He's the author of the bestseller, Helping Corporate Leaders Have Their Last Bad Day. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Good, Sharifa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being a guest. I know we're going to learn a lot from everyone. Our next guest, Elizabeth McFadden. Elizabeth is CEO of Novella Brandhouse, which is a full-service branding and marketing firm. Good morning, Elizabeth. How are you?
Good morning. Nice to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome. It's nice to have you. Rashad, where are you going? It's your turn. It's your time. We have Rashad McCrorey. He's the owner of Ghana Cross Culture and Travel. He's a travel influencer. You're over there in Ghana.
McCrorey.
Okay. When I first came up with the idea for this show, I had just finished the election for the Long Beach City Council. And so unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, I didn't go into the city council, but I said to myself, if they won't give me the city council, I'm going to take the round table, because I felt that discussions had to be made as a group. Like, we can, make changes as a group. I can only do so much alone. So I wanted to reach out and sit down and have open, honest conversations with people about how we improve our world. But the one thing that I also said is, when I launched it in, when I had the idea around March 3rd or 4th, I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I was like, okay, should I get topics? Should I come up with, discussion points? I didn't know. A month later, all anyone can speak about is COVID-19, 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 COVID-19. And what I saw was that there were people sharing tips, sharing information. And so I said, okay, let's all help each other to get through this point. So what I've been doing for the last week is speaking to people about how COVID-19 has affected their lives, how their life was, how their life is, anything that they learned. So I want to start that conversation with Michael. Michael, especially you're in New Jersey, you're in New York, a lot is happening there. Tell us about, your life and how it typically was as opposed to how it is now.
Well, it's changed remarkably, I think, for everyone in this part of the world. And it's going to, the thing about the energy of a virus, just the energy of humans, we ripple and cascade too. So what we're experiencing here in New York and New Jersey is going to ripple or cascade into the rest of our country. And so life at the beginning of March, my wife and I were basically like getting used to being empty nesters because we had our two daughters in college. And then all of a sudden I was actually out in your neck of the woods, was there for a couple of speaking engagements, came back, and then everything got topsy-turvy in a quick second. And my daughters came back, and my oldest daughter is a senior in college, so her senior year got upended and definitely disrupted. And I think everyone's sort of feeling the emotion of it. And then we got into lockdown. So certainly the situation in New York is much more extreme than New Jersey, but what we're starting to experience here in New Jersey, as far as the limitations on the healthcare system, we're starting to feel that as well. And obviously you hear a lot of the stories. And so we're hunkering down as a family and trying to be smart. All four of us did get sick. Now, because there was a lack of testing, we don't know if it was corona or not, but we certainly had all the symptoms. So we're thinking that we may have we're all healthy now, but certainly going through a lot, and we feel everything that the nation feels in this area. And for me, like with my personal story, I went through my own crisis. I'm a lucky to be alive story. So the emotions I felt in the hospital when I came through my recovery are so eerily similar to what we're experiencing today, with uncertainty and worry and anxiety about how long this will last. So there's a lot of parallels that we're just dealing with in our household, but we're trying to do it day by day, and we're doing a lot of jigsaw puzzles. So that's a little bit different. So
that sounds fun. But you mentioned you had a similar situation. You had an illness. Was this within the last 6 months, or was this years ago? Because one of the articles that I read said that right around December, January, a lot of people got sick. A lot of people had the flu and were unusually sick, but that was before we were aware of and knew about COVID-19. I was one of those people. I had the flu for 2 weeks. I couldn't get out of the bed at all. And so what was your experience?
So our experience, both daughters came back from college sick. So, okay. And if anyone out there watching has sons or daughters in college, college is a petri dish. Everyone's always sick. And so they came back sick. And then what we thought, well, it sounded similar to corona, but again, no testing, not sure. And then we started hearing about confirmed cases of other folks at the universities that they're at. And then my wife got sick, then eventually I got sick. So we didn't have all the symptoms, but whatever symptoms we had did parallel it. And luckily they weren't as extreme as some of the cases obviously we hear about in the news. So we feel, if we did have it, we feel fortunate we had relatively minor cases of it.
Okay, now you're an author. You're a motivational speaker. Are you used to working from home? Did you work in an office? What was this transition like for you?
Well, so I'm fortunate that I spent 22 years in corporate America doing that whole, rise and shine and grind and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. And then about 5+ years ago, I started working from home. So I'm comfortable with Zoom, and comfortable from working from home, but still the cadence is different. I was very used to working at home with my wife, who has her own business as well that she does out of her house. But then you add on top of the girls coming back and just the natural rhythm of everything being disrupted. It's certainly not business as usual. I know a lot of folks in the beginning of March or middle of March was like, oh, it's business as usual. We're just going to go remote and we're going to go on Zoom and we'll just get through this. And the analogy I made over the weekend in my blog post is that this is not a marathon. This is rather a triathlon. So that, a marathon, obviously a long race, we're going to be in this for a long haul, but I think sort of in the spirit of a triathlon, it's going to come in different phases. Like if a triathlon has 3 different events, So we're going to have the health phase that we're currently in. Then we're going to have an economic phase of this. And then we'll get to have a new opportunity, create something, hopefully a new normal that's better. And so it's going to come in phases, I think, as it travels across the country, where each part of the country is going to be sort of in their own phase at their own given time.
I definitely agree. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring people together from all over the country, all over the world. I know we have Isabel, and Isabel, I believe you're is it in Indianapolis?
Yes, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yes. How has COVID-19, how has everything that's going on affected you?
Probably not as much as other people, because for me, not much has changed. The only thing that has changed, or that really bothered me about it, was that we couldn't finish filming for the documentary. So that was a bit of a bummer, but we can still work on it with what we have. So I'm not too concerned about it. But something that is rather specific to me, when there is chaos around me, I have this ability to completely calm down. People who work with me, or even my family, they always say every time something is going on, you just totally become really, really calm, and it just calms the entire situation or the entire group of people. And from that perspective, it's for me, it's actually quite really amazing opportunity to observe, to see how people respond, what they do, and what most people take from this. So I'm not a panic person. For us, actually, it's gotten easier. My husband is now working from home, and everything is more relaxed around here, to be honest. My husband doesn't have to drive back and forth. He's home more. My son loves it. And everything is more calm and more relaxed, actually. We kind of knew that something was coming last year. I've said that many, many times last year, that I have this feeling something is coming in 2020. And we prepared accordingly. My husband is also very intuitive, and he agreed. And so we prepared pretty well for whatever we thought would come. We weren't sure, but we're pretty prepared. So right now, our focus is more outward and helping people who have not have the opportunity to prepare as much as us. So we just help our neighbors who are elderly, or other people around. So that gives us the opportunity. So it hasn't changed too much for us personally, but overall, I can feel the shift happening, especially that our documentary is about the power of connection and shattering social, political, and religious constructs and programming. And so this is perfect for the documentary. Absolutely timely and perfect.
It sounds interesting. And I know at some point after all of this is over, you're going to go back to working on the documentary. And when you get to a certain point of advertising and promoting it, I definitely want to invite you to return, to come back, sit down with us and talk to us about your documentary, because it sounds timely. It definitely sounds timely. There's so much going on in the world, and there is power and connection. And I think that's where a lot of people are affected. Like for me, I'm kind of like Michael. I've been working at home for years. I'm a recluse. I hardly ever leave my house. So now, to a certain extent, it's business as normal. But what changes is I kind of forget the world is going through certain things. So when I decide that I want to go out and go to the grocery store, or I want to go to a restaurant, I'm kind of in shock. I'm like, oh my God, wow, like everybody's walking around in face masks when I was sitting at home having business as usual. But speaking of intuition, I want to bring Marlana on, because when you were a guest on the show last time, I think we focused more on you being a motivational speaker, a motivational coach. And now, you're more focused on being a healer, using your intuition. We also talked about how you have a channel where on your channel, you didn't really want to go into your readings because of the energy. And now you're like, I'm a 5th generation healer, which I get because I'm a 3rd generation reader, may go back further than that, but there seems to be a shift in you. Talk to us a little bit about that, please.
Absolutely. So I've been working with people and on my YouTube channel for at least about 2 years at Graceful Healing Intuitive Tarot. And actually, I might be changing the name a little bit back to High Priestess Marlene. But the whole purpose of my untimely shutdown a little bit last month was because of the energies that were just simply around me, just a lot of negative energies. It just seems like a lot of drain on me rather. And I actually heard a lot of people who are very intuitive getting that same kind of drained energy from the people around because of the society. But in the process of me forcing my way back to talk to people, to give them that hope again, I had to kind of go through that cleansing myself, get rid of a lot of that negative energy that I just felt was kind of permeating the airways at the time. And I'm starting to feel a larger shift in the thinking of the masses of a lot of people. There's a lot of people still kind of stuck, but you know, a lot of people are waking at this time. And the last message I gave was about waking up, to take back and reclaim your power. And just yesterday, I did another live with my group of people on YouTube. And again, that same message was coming up, but also letting you know this change is here. The change is occurring currently right now. And this is the time to kind of walk through that portal, walk through that power, take back your power, and go into new depths that you didn't have available for you before. So now that opportunity is there. Even if you felt like things were failing before, that opportunity is now definitely available for those people to come back and take their power back and go into places they didn't even see coming. So I definitely agree with Isabel there. A lot of things are breaking down. A lot of the power dynamics are definitely breaking down, allowing for those people who are a little more open to, I don't want to say reality, but those people who are a little more woke to kind of come and stand their ground and bring forth the light and that power. Absolutely.
I love it. That sounds powerful. So I want to ask you, when you speak about being awake, you speak about people who are stepping into their power. Do you feel that a lot of the being awake comes from people now utilizing their creativity? Because one of the key terms that kept being mentioned over the past week was this creativity, this incubation, because so many people are stuck at home. To a certain extent, it's like you have no choice but to wake up because you have nothing else to do but think about creative ways to express yourself.
I love it. And I love it. I love that aspect of what's going on right now. I was telling people yesterday, just, you know, kind of look at the cup as half full, or, you know, if you have some lemon, make some lemonade, because right now, this is that time where you can bunker down, actually tune into your intuition, meditate a little more. I've been out grounding myself a lot, even if it's just walking around in the grass outside, whatever it is, just having that time to kind of slow down. Even if you're working from home, you still have that time where you can kind of meditate a little more, do some more introspection, look more into your purpose. And actually right now, a lot of people are dreaming a lot more now too, and they can even hear more. They can listen more to spirit guiding them. So right now, this is actually a good time for you to hone in on all of that and take it in and listen to source and identify what your purpose is and be able to walk in that. I mean, I love it personally. I'm not looking at the glass half empty rather. I'm actually looking at the fact that we have less smog, the fact that we have spring is here. You know, you can actually go out and enjoy the pollen in the air.
Yes.
You know, and just kind of take this time out to kind of just feel what is really going on. It's really going on. That's what's kind of coming to me. What is it that people are really perceiving as what's really going on versus what the masses or media is actually showing you? What are you really feeling?
That's great. And to be open to that. Rashad, you're a travel influencer. So my question becomes, what does a travel influencer do during times when we're unable to travel? So I think our travel influencer has
adjust and pivot.
I'm gonna do my delay dance.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I think we have a delay. So tell us what you said adjust. Talk to us, Rashad.
Oh no. Hello. Okay. It's a delay. Yeah, just adjust and pivot. When I came out to Ghana on a business trip, I'm actually from New York, I'm from Harlem. And I came out to Ghana on February 27th for a business trip. I had a group of 4 Americans here in Ghana for Independence Day from March 3rd to March 9th. And I originally brought a one-way ticket because there were a lot of festivals and a lot of activities, and I wanted to use it as a promotional trip. So when everything started going on, as far as the travel bans and the travel advisory to come home now or to stay indefinitely, I had to make a choice. And I looked at all my resources. I said, well, I'm very connected in the country. I'm a travel influencer. All my travel destinations are pretty much shut down. I only travel to Africa. Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda are the countries that I serve. I said, I'm better off in Ghana rather than returning home to New York City, which seems to be almost ground zero when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in America. So since I've been here, I've actually had to use my other skills and my other talents to not only stay afloat, but to kind of expand and thrive during this time. I've been writing more. I'm 10,000 words into a book.
Oh, wow.
I've been doing a lot of journalism. And I'm also making sure that people still know that there is a world outside, and encouraging people to also, while they stay in the moment, practice mindfulness to get through things day to day, that there is a future, there is still an outside world. So I think for all entrepreneurs and everybody who have dreams, we should be as flexible as possible, try to think outside the box as possible. Talk to other influencers, talk to other business people with a encouraging mindset. So to finalize your question, what is a travel influencer doing? He's being as flexible and as innovative as he can be. A lot of people are retracting. A lot of people are going to try to wait it out. I believe the best route for any entrepreneur, for any body who's used to working home remotely or just working home remotely, use this time of social isolation to master a skill, master a craft, even if it's inner healing, like the young lady was talking about previously, even if it's working on something, a bad habit within yourself, taking the time out to reflect on your life. Try your best to come out better. Try your best to come out better in some fashion or form.
Wow, wonderful. Those are wonderful words to live by. Wow, I don't know what I would do if I was stuck in another country, but I mean, I definitely would stay positive. So I'm glad that you're positive over there in Ghana, Rashad. You're using
Well, I'm not
10,000 words.
I'm not stuck. I chose to stay.
Okay, so wrong verbiage, wrong terminology. You chose to stay. You're over there as opposed to coming back to New York. But 10,000 words into a book, that's what impressed me. I'm impressed. I did this in my weird little way in a particular order for a reason. I probably would have went to Rashad last because of the delay coming from America to Ghana, and so there's a pause. But I looked at everyone and I said, okay, to a certain extent, they're pretty much entrepreneurs, people who are speakers, motivational coaches, doing intuition, different things. And then we have Elizabeth. Elizabeth has this advertising and marketing firm, which typically is that kind of brick and mortar, tried and true business. It's not known for being so creative aside from ads or kind of working home feel. So Elizabeth, talk to us about how this has affected you.
Well, it's interesting. I would say, I'm here in Kansas City, and we were really one of the first cities out of Washington State, New York, and California that were put on lockdown. So we have been working remotely we're now going into our 4th week. And I would say up until this week, we were really pretty busy because for most of our clients, the big thing was messaging. They were like, okay, how do we talk to our clients? What do we say? Is it even okay to be out there, you know, selling something, marketing something, and that kind of thing. So we spent a lot of time working with them on that. And, you know, what we were telling them was, you have to, you know, recognize what's going on. You have to be relevant. A lot of our clients, you know, they put together ad campaigns, they do social media, and they create content ahead of time. And so we were counseling them, anything that you did prior to March 15th, you need to make sure you need to go back and make sure that's all relevant. I mean, there's nothing more. I think that first week that most of us were on lockdown, so to speak, we kept getting emails, and we kept seeing advertisements for companies that it was like, we're, you know, not speaking to the situation of that, you know, COVID-19, and that we have this, you know, complete disruption going on. But I think now you're seeing most advertising spots you're seeing on TV are, you know, again, speaking to what's going on. And then we were working with them on pivoting. And I know one of the other guests was talking about how, maybe it was Rashad, I mean, everybody had to pivot and change what, you know, the next week was going to look like, month, or now we're really even working through the end of June and what that's going to look like. And I think for most small businesses, you know, us included, and I think other small businesses, you know, everybody's been trying to figure out the small business, the SBA loans, I think funding. And so that's what I'm hearing from a lot of our clients, but also just my other small business peers and community. Everybody's trying to figure out this week and last week how to keep the lights on, how to keep their employees, and how do we, what kind of offering or product are you going out there with now that everybody's at home? And you know, how do you get creative in that?
That's excellent, because when you were speaking, that was the question I was going to ask you. How do you advise someone to get creative in that? And the reason I say that is I've been watching television, actually some of the commercials, and like you said, they're all COVID-19 related, and how the business is responding to this occurrence. And I was watching a Verizon Wireless commercial, and it was like they were saying, we're here for you. We're here to help you with everything going on in the world. We are here. We are open 24 hours a day to serve you on VerizonWireless.com. And I was like, okay, but haven't they always been available 24 hours on Verizon? Like, is this new? But it was creative in the way they were trying to express that we're here for you. Have you had, you know, like a similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for us, it's interesting. So we are, I mean, brick and mortar. Our location is in downtown Kansas City. But about a year ago, we started looking at, because we're trying to scale our business. We've been in business for over 7 years, and so we're just really, you know, at that point. And about a year ago, we started creating kind of an online offering. And what's interesting is that, you know, now a lot of companies had been thinking that, you know, they've been like doing their vision boards and thinking, oh, we need to figure out we need to take our business online, or we need to open up a online store, an e-commerce store. I mean, whatever that may be, right? And this has really forced a lot of companies to either embrace that, to figure that out, to get creative on, okay, you know, on the, you know, because we probably can't add staff at this point. So with our current resources, how can we grow our business, and what does that look like online? For a lot of other customers, they had to, or I think other businesses in general, and maybe some of our clients as well, you know, maybe they have not really focused on how they did business online. And kind of to your point about what Verizon was saying, you know, clearly their website's is on 24/7, right? But they'd never really promoted to people that, yes, you can do all these things. You can take care of your billing. You can add services, access things, access your account online 24/7. You never have to leave your home. And so they had to change about how they were talking about that. And I think a lot of companies are looking at, again, how can we, you know, how can we operate online, and what does that look like? We've been saying, you know, for the last few weeks, it's like, you probably need to look at how do you take your business from offline to online. And I think what we're going to see is that after this is all over, companies are going to, I think as a society, we're going to be more adept at doing more things online and buying and you know, interacting online. And I think companies are going to find some success there and stay in that space.
Interesting. Michael, you mentioned that you have been at home for years. Was there any change or transition in your message as a result of this occurrence?
Well, I think it's like a combination of like what people have already said, like with Isabel, like just like the sort of the calming effect. So since I went through my own near-death experience, what I've been trying to do is just try to put out as much goodness as possible to help people through this moment. So as we wrestle with, like, as business owners, like to sell or to not to sell, and I think what Rashad said was great. Like, if we have something that people want to work on, let's get busy and work on that. But with what Marlena said is like just also having a moment just to breathe in this moment, just to have some peace. And so what I've been trying to do, because the rhythm of my business has been disrupted, but I also I have an online leadership academy, so which I've been doing since 2018. So that's allowed me to transition pretty easily. But I've just been trying to put out as much goodness right now as possible to help people through this moment, and good anabolic energy out there, so we can all sort of get through this moment, because this moment, it too shall pass. And then once we come out of it, we're going to create a new normal. And I think what the fantastic thing about it is, going back to lemons into lemonade, is if we can be intentional about this moment, then we can have some say in that new normal we create, as opposed to hunkering down. So like a lot of the folks I travel with, maybe in the corporate life, instead of having a moment to like enjoy the pollen of spring, they're like binging on Netflix, and they're doing things to sort of take their attention away from the current moment. And I think we all need a distraction from time to time. It's not to pass any judgment, because I've been on Netflix as well. But you know, we if we can sit with ourselves and reflect on like this moment and how we want to come out of it, because come December 2020, as we get ready for New Year's in 2021, and we're like, gosh, I can't wait for this year to be over. What a crazy year. That we'll talk about this moment in time, and what we do right now gives us the building blocks of that narrative. And I think it's an incredible opportunity for all of us. And that's what I'm trying to do with my messaging, is just be there for folks in this moment, since I know a thing or two about having a bad day, and we'll get through this. I know we will. So.
I love it. Elizabeth, actually, I'm sorry, I want to go back to Isabel. Isabel, has your messaging changed?
Not necessarily. From a spiritual perspective, and having done this work for many years, something that I have been thinking about over the last years is, especially now, it comes in really well. We have created a system, a programming. We have been programmed for so many thousands of years in the way we operate today. And my question would be, now that this is an interruption, there's more to it. We know there is more behind this whole virus thing, right? So now that we have this interruption, are we just looking to create another program, another system that we buy into, instead of actually really doing the groundwork as a society and changing how we operate with each other, instead of just creating another system? Because I understand that people say, okay, now I need to create it online, but really what happens if we have a complete blackout, if even online goes down, or that there's not enough, like everything is overloaded online? It's even more condensed because you can't just walk away, and it gets so overstimulating. Like I can't even be on it at times where I'm like, nah, I don't want to have to scream for someone to hear my message, or for someone to hear my voice. So I think a lot of it is coming from fear. Now I don't have income. I need to create something new. I need to create something else. But really, we're just taking the essence of what we had before to a different place. There is no real shift happening. And we're just creating another social programming, because let's face it, online, everyone who has a message is even more controllable. And that is something we all need to consider when we create something new, when we look at what is it that we need to shift moving forward as a world society. There's so much more to it, and so much that needs to go much deeper than what we just talk about out there. You know, everyone talks about the opportunity and then we just have to take things online. That is not the solution from my perspective, from a spiritual perspective, so that we can actually create shifts in the way we operate with each other. And there's the danger. Do we just take another system and put it in a different place and just create the same? And eventually that system is going to spiral and we have another crash. I think what we're faced with now is the opportunity to really create something complete new, really tear down some of that old programming, if it's socially, politically, or even from a religious perspective, so that we can understand that we're not fighting each other, we're fighting ourselves. We have to create a place of oneness. We have never been separated. And that's what I remind people of. You can create whatever you want right now. Eventually the system will crash again because it's what we create.
I think that was beautiful. And it was so much in what you had to say. I'm going to ask if anyone wants to respond to what Isabel just said.
I concur.
Yeah. Me too. Yep.
I always say, you know, eventually we're going to have to start bartering. I mean, you have no clue of all the people that have called me and has talked so much crap about me moving to the middle of nowhere. And they always, my mother always says, you moved to Egypt. Like, I came out here for a reason, because I wanted to be able to really sustain without anything. I wanted to be able to really, if I wanted to get off the grid, be able to. And there's a lot of people that are in a lot of controlling places that would want to keep you in control. And I totally agree with her as far as the programming, the mass programming, and being able to shut that down, because that's what I talk about on a regular basis. We have been conditioned to live a certain way, and they put you into this little box, and then you feel like you can't get out of the box. Now what? What do I do now? And that's why a lot of people are so scared, and the fear tactics are real. So, I mean, I just heard my mother works for Coalition for the Homeless, and someone there got the virus. And I said, well, what are you doing now? Because I kept telling her, I don't know how much the masks are really helping, because I don't really believe that the masks going to help but so much. So really, what's the next step? I said, are we going to build up their immune system, give them some vitamin C? I mean, what are you going to do? Because she's crying. The lady was really crying like it was a death sentence. And I mean, that really pissed me off, because the level of fear is real, and people are crying, upset, think they're going to drop and die tomorrow. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so if people would just look past the message that they're giving you, look to the real root and cause and the core of the issue, then they may see the hope and may see that there's something different you can do. But if you keep listening to these same fear tactics all day, every day, listening to oh my, I can't watch the news. I just can't.
Elizabeth?
Well, I think from a business perspective, I mean, a lot of business people, when this all first started unraveling, you know, now almost a month ago, you know, I feel like, you know, you feel like you got to try and do something. And so I think that that's what you've seen a lot of businesses do. You know, unfortunately, I think there have been some that, you know, just like you see people that are hoarding toilet paper or whatever, there are those businesses that are hoarding cash and, you know, not paying their landlords rent when they could be, you know, and not paying their bills when they could be, not realizing that affects so many people down the road. So you do have some of that, but for the most part, I feel like, you know, business people, especially small businesses, are trying to keep their employees, and they're trying to keep things going. And so, you know, it's this sense of, I can't just sit here and not do anything. But at the same time, you know, to Isabel's point, you've got to be intentional. And I know, Michael, you said this as well. It's like, you've got to be intentional in what you're doing. You know, don't just spin your wheels or don't just be doing just to be doing. And so what I would encourage people is, be really mindful of the business decisions you're making and the new things that you're starting. Make sure it fits with who you are as a company and your brand and who you serve. And you obviously have to evolve these things, and some things are probably not going to work. It's just how it goes. But make sure that you're building relationships with your clients, with your customers. And ultimately, this is what we tell our clients all the time. That's who you're serving. So make sure that you're putting out there something that's helpful, and that they need at this time.
I think that's wonderful. Rashad?
Yeah, just being where I'm at in Ghana, and I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. I kind of feel for all the different emotions that everybody is experiencing individually and also as a collective unit, because I don't believe people were prepared. I was sharing with some of my friends here that I've watched coronavirus stories in America regarding China. Now I'm in Ghana watching coronavirus stories in America, especially my home, New York City. So the best thing I can do is prepare here the best that I can, and in reality, try to have foresight from other people examples, from other people's stories, listening to different entrepreneurs. Like even now, I'm like, wow, let me just listen. Let me just listen and learn, because I feel like the people at home, you're on the front lines and you're dealing with things in real time, and we're not really, enough people are not having foresight. And I believe that we need to have a balance of taking care of ourselves now, but also having the foresight of being able to predict the future. If this system is going to crash, let's be in position to be ahead and see when it's going to crash. Is it going to crash this year? Is it going to crash 5 years from now? Is it going to crash 20 years from now? What are the innovators doing? What trends am I picking up on early that allow me to thrive? And what trends are catching that are just time wasters? What is being oversaturated quickly? Where's the avenue that's open? So I just ask everybody on the line, everybody who's listening, let's spend time, whether you meditate, whether you read, whatever you're doing, to be able to try to be ahead, try to be one step ahead. Don't listen to the system. Listen to the system. Figure out what's best for you, what's best for your family, but try to come out of this whole ordeal ahead and not behind.
Rashad, one of the things that you mentioned early on, you said you're looking at it from the outside. When you mentioned that you're looking at it from the outside, is that a reference to you being in Ghana, looking at America? Because you mentioned China, America, but how's everything in Africa in comparison, since you're outside?
Different, with understanding that America does have the most confirmed cases of coronavirus, because America does the most testing. In addition to probably having the most cases outside of that, Ghana is only, I believe, 204 confirmed cases of corona. I do believe that the government is taking appropriate actions and keeping its citizens safe. For about 2 weeks now, all the stores in Ghana, pretty much, especially the major stores, you had to wash your hands before you even come into the store. Just last week, this is day 7, 3 major cities here in Ghana are on lockdown: Kumasi, Accra, and Port Tema. The borders have been closed to any country that has 200 or more corona cases since the 15th. Borders have been closed for all countries, I believe, since the 30th. And since the 23rd. And as of yesterday, the president announced that water for the country is going to be free for the next 3 months. So citizens don't have to pay for water as far as flowing water, tap water. The water won't be cut off because they do ration water here, not in a bad way. And I believe that what the government here are looking at are two different things. One, I'm still one of the people under the belief that that's a Northern Hemisphere virus, where even though it's here, it's not spreading as rapidly as of this moment as it is in the Northern Hemisphere, similar to like Zika virus or Ebola. Those were Southern Hemisphere viruses. I believe that it's kind of thriving in the North. It's coming here and it is spreading, but at the same time, it's not spreading as rapidly. But then again, they're not testing as much as other countries down here in Africa. So I do feel like I am on the outside looking, and I hear sometimes I don't even speak to family members because they worry me. They're trying to worry. I talk to them and I get worried. I'm like, hey, I can't even talk to you because you're starting to make me worry. Like, all right, like my bills are paid. I'm paying my rent. You know, I turned off all my lights before I left. Because my story is a little unique, and I'm repeating myself, but I'm gonna wrap it up. I brought a one-way ticket to Ghana just because I usually caught myself in positions where either I wasn't ready to come home and I was forced to come home because I already bought a plane ticket, or I was ready to come home and my plane ticket wasn't for another week or two out. So I brought a one-way ticket. I just decided to stay. And I feel like as of now, I made the right decision. But I did do my best to make sure my affairs are handled at home. Like, it's things I got to worry about. Like, I have my keys with me. I can't even mail my keys home, but at the moment. But being on the outside looking in, I'm also trying to use that as how can it keep me safe here? If the virus comes here, if things get crazy here, how can I use my preparation to either come home or even be as safe here as possible?
Okay, so real quick, Rashad, I just want to ask you, you have a one-way ticket. You're not stuck there. You can leave whenever you want to leave. Most people say that this situation, this tragedy, this coronavirus is going to be around for months. So this is not something that's going to end tomorrow. Do you have a specific time frame or a date where you're like, you know what, if this is not done by July, I'm going home? Do you have any time frame of how long you plan on staying away?
I've been coming to Ghana for 5 years now. I've been doing business at a solid level for 3 years. I built a lot of strong network, strong relationships here. Even now, I was originally in the capital city of Accra, and I just got paranoid. People wasn't washing their hands cooking food. People were still shaking and hugging, you know. So I moved to the mountains of Akwa Ibom, and I'm actually in a major tourist attraction, Aburi Gardens. My plan is to stay indefinitely. I am prepared to stay indefinitely. Planes are not flying regularly in and out anymore. However, it seems as if the Justice Department is checking in weekly or bi-weekly for Americans who do want to come home. So I can't buy a plane ticket to come home at any given moment as of before. But when the travel advisory came in stating that come home now or risk being abroad indefinitely, I really took a moment to breathe. This is about the 4th or 5th time I said practice mindfulness and said, okay, look at your connections, look at your resources, look at your finances, look at your business. You know, where is really the best place for you to be for both the immediately short-term, medium, and even possible long-term. I think maybe around the latest I would stay, that right now I'm prepared to stay, is probably going into July, August. If I have to stay that long, I am prepared to stay till at least July, August. If things are not back, if I can't go home or if things are not safe home going into the end of the summer, fall, then I might be in a situation. But money stretches here. Again, I would be more concerned about paying my rent at home, that I don't lose everything at home. You know, I feel like I'm fine out here. I actually feel like I'm fine out here. I can survive out here. I just have to make sure that my affairs stay in order at home, and hopefully nobody at home gets sick. that
Yes.
that will force me to kind of return home.
Wow, you're definitely interesting story. One of the things that we mentioned prior to the show, Rashad, is that guests, I always want the guests to come back. So if you give us an update in a couple of weeks, come back, share with us where you are now, because your story is definitely one that I know I'll be talking about in future shows. I mean, we had a guest and he's in Africa, and definitely he doesn't know. So we're definitely going to share that. I want to go over to Elizabeth. You mentioned the SBA. One of the things that I read is that initially the SBA made a lot of statements about the small business loans and helping the small businesses. Part of the concerns that I've read is that these are loans. Businesses are forced into this time, and now this is money that they're going to have to pay back that they weren't expecting to have to pay back, even though they do need the help right now. That's number one. And number two, that even though these loans are quote unquote being offered, not many businesses have been able to apply for these loans. Do you have information on that? What are some of the things that you've read, learned, or heard, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so like I said, I feel like last week, most small businesses were probably inundated or working on SBA stuff. So, I want to say it was about 10 days ago, I was on a webinar, a nationwide webinar with Inc. magazine, and they had a speaker from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and he was fantastic. He was really breaking down the legislation with us. And that was on the day that it was passing through Congress. And so we were hearing that, okay, Wednesday, April 1st, that's when you're going to be able to start applying for loans. And then it was Thursday, and then it was Friday, and then it was go through the SBA, and then the banks, and then literally every hour, the kind of framework around the loan and the different things that, different requirements were changing. I was on several different webinars or Zoom meetings with other small business owners, and we were all just trying to figure it out. So since then, the big one I'm really talking about is the PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan part. And that's the other thing. There's the EIDL, the EIDL. There is the Disaster Loan Relief Advance. That's a part of the EIDL. There is the PPP part. There's a lot of different aspects. And of course, it kind of depends on, whether you need more working capital, if you need more payroll help, which loan makes sense for you. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I'm a marketing and advertising person, branding person. I am not a financial whiz by any means, but I have gotten very well versed in how all the loan stuff works and again, legislation, because the other thing that as a business owner, we were trying to figure out along with this was, how does the FMLA, the expanded, how does that affect things? And of course that affects, what kind of funding you might need. I mean, you made another good point. These are loans. The EIDL is, none of that is forgivable from what I understand. So if you have that loan, you have to pay that back, although it's very favorable terms. The PPP part of that is forgivable, but again, you have to document everything. I mean, the government is just not going to give you free money, obviously.
Right.
But I think what's important is, again, there's a lot of businesses out there that probably were on some shaky ground going into this. And I think they're looking at this as like, oh, this is going to be what's going to bail them out. And I mean, that's just not the case. So you're right. I mean, these are loans. I mean, from what I've done personally in running my business is just trying to be very, careful about obviously cash flow, but then what kind of debt we're taking on. I mean, I have gone to some of our vendors or creditors and asked for, can we pay something on the back end? Can you give us a break? But I'm being very careful to not rack up debt going out of this, because that's not smart either.
Right.
I mean, we all have to pay this back, whatever we get a loan for.
Absolutely.
So right now, I'm in the process with lots of other people going through my bank to get an SBA loan. So we will see, fingers crossed, something happens in the next week or so.
Yes, and just like I mentioned to Rashad, I want to mention to everyone. So definitely, Elizabeth, keep us posted. You know, come back, let us know any information that you find out, updates on the SBA or the SBA loans, because my goal is to provide information, help, tools, resources to everyone. So I would definitely love to hear more. Now we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show, and what I like to do at the end of every show is just allow my guests the opportunity to speak a few final words to our audience, the people who are watching live on Facebook, people who are watching the show in the archives. So we're going to start with Marlana.
I would just like to again, to allow people to just take the time out to just do some introspection at this time. Take this time to, again, reclaim your power, love on yourself, love on your family. Don't forget about those who are still in need while you're in this great panic moment at this time. Still realize there are people around you that still are in a worse situation than you. So don't feel as though you have to, I guess, kind of hoard all of the help that you have. Actually still help a neighbor.
Wonderful words to live by. Isabel.
Before we can experience a breakthrough, we have to break down. And a system that does not value the individual as well as the earth will break down badly. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. And if we don't shift our ethical and moral values, we will just get into the same crap as we have that brought us here where we're at today. So I think what I want to encourage for everyone is to understand, or to ask themselves the question, what is really a priority in my life? What is it that I really need? Where am I ethically and morally aligned with the earth, with humanity, with my soul, and really taking a deeper look in that way.
I think that was so beautiful, and I love the way you stated it. Michael.
I think those two recommendations are spot on, to, sit with ourselves to see how we're showing up, for lack of a better term, and is it in alignment? Because when things are out of alignment, it causes stress points. Things out of alignment never work as well as something in alignment. One practice that I used coming through my recovery was the gratitude practice, just to see some of the building blocks that we can leverage as we get on with the phases that will come, that can help us create the new normal, the better normal that we want, a better program, to sort of steal from Isabel, and that is in more alignment, not only with ourselves, but each other and the planet as a whole.
I love it, love it, love it. Thank you for that information. Rashad, final words for us?
Please, be mindful. I believe that this is the greatest world incident since World War II. This is a trying time. This is going on all around the world. So don't feel sorry for yourself. You can do healing and retrospection. You can thrive. I believe the most millionaires in American history came out of the Great Depression. If finances is something that you're worrying about, and put yourself in a position to where you're allowing life to show you where you are. Don't be afraid to break down, like the other person say, to come back stronger. Don't be afraid to thrive. Don't be afraid to be successful. Don't be afraid to get closer to people, to love yourself more, love your family more, or to get out of a bad situation. Whatever it is, understand that this is probably, up until now, most recent generations, the most poignant time in history. And understanding the moment will allow you to see clearer how to come out on the other end in a better place.
I think that's wonderful. And I think the key there is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of anything. We mentioned the fear. Don't give in to the fear, because a lot of this is fear-based. Elizabeth, final words from you?
Yes, I think, just hearing conversations and seeing things on social media, I know a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs and soon-to-be entrepreneurs are taking this time to work on their dreams, to work on their companies, and to work on their business. And so a lot of times that is, in the world of what we do, branding and marketing. So on our website, we have a whole list of resources and free resources, and follow us on social media. We're always putting out information to help people. And especially right now, we know a lot of people are working on this, and you know, they don't have the budgets they had a month ago. And so we have a lot out there. If anybody wants that, they can take a look at that, and hopefully it will help them during this time.
I love it. And thank you for bringing that up, because that is usually my final word. Please support the show, and please support the guests. Visit their website. I'm sure all of our guests in some form or fashion are putting out information on their websites, their social media, to help us all through this time, and support them. The description, their websites are in the post. So visit their websites, follow them on social media, because they've given up their time, their energy to be able to help you here today. So support the show. If you're interested in being a guest, please visit the website at ashsharifa.com. I will be back tomorrow morning, Tuesday at 8 a.m. We're here weekdays at 8 a.m. Follow the show, like the page. Until tomorrow, everyone have a safe and blessed day. Bye now.